welcome again. I know you heard a lot about game localization today. We will just give you some additional input, especially from a game developer point of view, because that's a bit different from the agency point of view. So, yes, welcome. What we're going to talk about. First of all, I will introduce our company, Goodgame Studios, a bit. What we do, what kind of games we do. Then I will talk about our localization. No, then Martina will talk about our localization department. You will hear about localization in game development, especially how it works in our company. We have regular updates and new releases, which is kind of a different thing. We will talk about the time frame that localization is involved and the localization scope we have to deal with in our company. And in the end, I will present the localization workflows that we encounter every day. So some general information. So Goodgame Studios is a German company, a GmbH, which just means we're owner managed. That means we are not dependent on investors to give us money, but we're just our own company, basically. We were founded in 2009, which means we're 5.5 years old now. We have our headquarters in Hamburg, which means almost all of us are in Hamburg. We of course have branches in Japan, Korea, for distribution issues mostly. We're among the leading companies in the free-to-play gaming industry, and we're the fastest growing gaming company in Europe. We just got a great award for that. Which means free-to-play gaming is of course a bit different from the big RPGs you have heard of today, but we'll talk about it later a bit. In our games we have more than 200 million registered players in more than 200 countries. And we're now about 1,200 employees from all over the world, basically. In those 5.5 years, we have grown to over 1,000 employees. That means our office space has also grown, of course. I think the exact numbers are not that interesting for you, but we have a lot of space. I will shortly introduce our games. Our games are web and mobile games. Maybe you've heard of our most well-known game. We also have a TV ad for Good Game Empire. And that's like a strategy building up game. So you're lord of a castle and you have to basically build up your castle, gather resources, you can attack other players, things like that. We also have a mobile version of that. Just to show Good Game Empire is not a screenshot here, but we have the mobile version. We have also a mobile version, which is called Empire for Kingdoms. It is similar, but it's an entirely own game, so it's not not linked to a web version. And it's available in usual stores, Google and Apple, and Amazon, I think. We have Good Game Big Farm, which is a farming game, it's not like Farmville was, at least not in the beginning, because it's very big. In the beginning you have only a small patch of land, and of course the main goal is to grow your farm, to produce things, to earn dollars. And there are also features you can unlock and events that are starting at a regular basis, so it never gets boring. And our newest game, just released in last August, is Shadow Kings, which is web and mobile version as well, but the mobile version is like the main game. You can see a screenshot of it here. It's well, the basics are, it looks pretty similar to Empire, Good Game Empire, because you also have a castle you build up and you attack other players, but the setting is very, very different. You have like a fantasy setting, you fight together with dwarves and elves to fight all the shadow creatures, and yes, that's what it's about mainly. Just some more information on our company. Like I said, we're more than 1,200 employees now. It's not the used number, but we're growing so fast that it's difficult to keep up.
We get about 100 new employees every month, so
it's growing very fast. Like I said, from more than 50 nationalities, so people from all over the world come to Hamburg to work with us. And yeah, we have one vision. I don't know if you can read it. Yeah, we want to become a global player in the free-to-play gaming industry, and I think we're in a good way for that. I have it's not the newest picture as well, because it was last summer. Martina is here.
yeah, that's me.
I was ill on the day. And it's almost all, the whole company, yeah, in that time. Now the picture would be even bigger, of course, because there was, I don't know, like 900.
Yeah, at that time, 900.
So yeah, there's a lot of people. So we have the management in the front, most important guys, and yeah, everyone. And our localization team, just my mind to one backwards. We consist of about 20 people. It's also growing right now. And that includes also our testers, QA, our internet translators, and us, project coordinators. Martina will tell you more about that later, what we're doing. And we are in cooperation with many other departments, so like rollout, for example, those who are deciding which markets to enter, which languages do we need for it, marketing, game design, game text, and yeah, I think these are more. Yeah, of course we have it. Then it's like as we are growing, we of course have a lot of jobs to offer. So I think both of us started with an internship, but you can also be a working student, which would be difficult if you're not living in Hamburg, I think, but it's possible. We're sometimes doing better master thesis. Yeah, thesis. There are trainee programs, which is like the normal entry level, or you can also choose direct entry, but as if you're a student who just finished, it's probably internship or trainee program. So some of our departments, we of course, yeah, not only localization, that's for us the most important thing. So we of course are a developing company, which means we have development in Java, Flash, PHP, also growing, also going in new directions. We have art, we have game design, all those tech guys, system administration, international rollout, yeah, you can see for that. And more. So if you think you cannot really enter localization but something different like customer support or something like that, just try. We also, I forgot to mention that we have brought some giveaways. Feel free to take any of these, and you can also contact us with these files. We have all the information there. Yes, do you want to?
Of course. So this is basically our department in August 2013. That's when I started. So that's how it looked like. We had one localization manager who was basically the team lead for our really, really small department at that time. We had 2 localization interns, which was me and Paul, an English-speaking guy. And we had 1 working student who came in on Fridays and did the proofreading for German text. So how it looked like, we, as it is also now we developed in German, so our main language is German. Then the text gets translated into English, and from English into all other languages, which are up to 30 languages for Shadow Kings, for example, for the absolute optimization text. Empire, which is our biggest game, has 26 languages. Big Form is a little bit small, it has about 21. So that's also why we needed an English-speaking guy in the company right in-house, because the English translations which we got from an agency were not so well. It's much better to have someone in-house who is really like familiar with the game, who knows it very well, who is in the process, who can ask game designers about stuff, who can ask client people, even developers, about information he needs. So that was the reason why Paul was there and I was there as well. Localization interns or localization project coordinators, which we are called right now, we take care of a specific project. For example, I am responsible for Empire for Kingdoms. Oh no, wrong direction. There. And what was the pointer? This one. So this is my project, and this is Isabell's project. Our babies. Yeah. So, oh no. Wow. Yeah. So what we do is we are really in the development process. We know exactly when there is an update, if there was an update, what is going to be in the update, which features, what does the game designers do, what does the QA do, do they test, what do they test and why. This is really important because we need to deliver the translations, the localizations on time. So we really need to know when the texts are coming to us. Mostly we are working on regular updates, which I will talk also later about. But game designers like not to plan a lot in advance. So the features are still in development, which makes it kind of hard for us. And even if you are telling them we need the texts, like at least 3 days before they want to update, it sometimes works out and sometimes not.
It's called agile.
It's called agile, exactly. But yeah, it's probably the best way to do that. So this is what we do. We prepare a lot of stuff for the translators so they know what they are translating. So even if the feature or the new update is not there yet, which is in most of the cases, we do some kind of briefings. We try to get the translators as much information as we can. We try to comment on every possible string on all the placeholders which are there, so there's really everything is clear. And even if they have any questions, they are always free to contact us. Of course, we are the agency which we are using for all the other languages, and ask us any question and we'll answer them. So this was it, and this is also now how it works. In January 2015, I'm very sorry, we still have a localization manager who is a team lead for a quite big department now. We have 7 localization project coordinators. For example, at the beginning I started with Big Form, and then I went over to Empire and Empire for Kingdoms, and at one time I was managing 2 projects, which would be definitely too much now. So we have a different person who takes care of Empire, we have different persons who take care of Shadow Kings and the marketing texts which come with these games and so on. So we have also 2 in-house translators. Of course, we needed someone for English because English is just so important. And we also have 1 person for Japanese, which is also great because Asian languages usually create many problems when it also comes to internationalization, to code, and so on. So we have someone for that as well. we have 3 localization QA project coordinators, which are coordinators who take care of testing, of localization testing. I think we started that like a few months ago. It's quite new, so we are still working on getting it implemented into our processes. It's quite hard. And we have also 6 localization testers. So right at this moment we cover like a lot of languages in-house. We have Spanish, Czech, Polish, Russian, Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese, Dutch, French, and we will have Italian. And soon. And I hope I didn't forget anyone. So this is what we cover in-house right now, so that's quite a lot. Yeah. Any questions? No. Great. Yeah, the localization in game development, it was quite hard for me to actually find or to give you some concrete information, because the game projects are just so different. Like when you are switching from Big Farm to Empire, the 2 projects were totally different, and it's even a greater difference when you switch into a mobile game project, because they work in a very different way, which is called Agile. But yeah, you can work on, or you can have PC games, console games, browser games, and mobile games. Right at this moment we are working mainly on browser and mobile games. But the 2 approaches are very different. But what's similar is, or are the updates, which I already talked about a little bit, where there is new content, new features, but you have the game, the core of the game, the 95% are already translated, which is great if the translations are good, and it's really bad when the translations are bad. The localization is done simultaneously with the development of the content. So that's what I said, when you have a batch of texts with the new feature, you don't really see them in game. You have probably only a briefing from game design, but you have pictures and so on, but it's not much. And then there are new releases, which means you have a new game. Everyone loves new games, and the whole package needs to be translated from scratch. But I will talk about that later on. Yeah, the regular updates. So, new features or new content, as I said, simultaneously with the game development. Of course, to make all the translations consistent, we use glossaries, we use translation memories, we have a CAT tool. We have also an in-house developed content management system tool, which makes it also a little bit easier. We are also a software company, as Isabell said. That means if we need a fancy new tool, it's possible. I'm not saying it's gonna happen in a week, but it's possible to go to a project manager and tell him, look, we would need something because our processes don't work as well without this tool. And yeah, and we have macros, so as you can see, we're also loving Excel. Everyone loves Excel. Yeah. The preparation phase is not quite long with the updates. It depends, of course, on the updates. Big Farm, for example, had some huge updates. I mean, I'm talking huge, but it was only 7,000 words, the biggest one.
It's huge for us.
It's huge for us because when you have 7,000 words and you expected only 2,000 words, and you said to the agency, oh, we will have 2,000 words, and then it's 7,000, and the localization needs to be done in 2 or 3 days, then it's quite a lot. Yeah, so there is not so much content, but still everything needs to be prepared. The project coordinator needs to really sit on that and prepare all the briefings and go through all the texts and comment on it. And if he sees something sketchy, you know. You have to ask game designers, what do you mean with that? Why did you do this like that? So it's quite some work. Yeah, the rest of the game is already translated, which is great if the translation is not too old. Like we had the problem with Empire. When I started on Empire, that was a game which was already 3 years old, and the translations which happened 3 years ago didn't happen in a CAT tool. I don't know actually where it happened. It happened. I don't know. I don't even know who did that. I heard something about customer support people who once spoke Polish, so they translated it into some language. That's hard. Of course, that's hard to manage. So if the translation quality is high, then you have a very nice project. If the translation quality is low, then you will have to fight with it like in the next few months, because it's not easily done. The content of the whole update can change, and it will change. You can be sure of that. So if you have sent your badge to the agency and you think you are done now and it's your time to get a cup of coffee, game design will show up at your table and tell you that they forgot about 100 strings. Exaggerating, but it happens. You also depend on the whole team and on the update deadline. So if someone makes the decision to update a day earlier, then you will have a problem, because you already communicated another deadline to the agency, and now you have to change it, and now you have to even look if it's possible to make it. So that's what we fight for and with. New releases, as I said, everyone loves new games, but it's quite complicated actually. You are starting from scratch, so you have freedom. Like if you didn't like your old Arabic translator, you can choose another one. If you didn't like the agency you were working with, then you can choose another one. If you wanted to try out a new CAT tool, feel free to do so. But it also means that everything can go wrong, because you have almost no workflows, no processes which are already there. So it's really important to do the whole setting up quite early in the development process. If the project manager or product manager is approaching you and telling you, oh, and by the way, in 3 weeks we want to release the game and we have no localizations yet, then you will try not to faint, and you will be really stressed for the next 3 weeks, and probably the localization won't be that good. So what you need actually is to work with the whole game team right from the beginning. Even though there is nothing at the beginning, because everything is in concept, so you don't even know what game is it gonna be. Is it gonna be a puzzle game? Is it gonna be a strategy game? You don't know that. You haven't seen any pictures yet, nothing. So, but it's important to meet the people, to meet the project manager, to meet the product manager, to talk with them, to state clearly at the beginning what you need them to do, what materials, what briefings you need from them, when do you need the texts. So it's really important to do that. Identifying the scope of the whole project, of course. Do they want to make a really big game with a small quest which has 200,000 words, or how is the game? How is the concept? Is it going to be a small game like Mario Brothers with 1,500 words, or is it going to be something really big, like Final Fantasy XIV? And which languages do they want? Do they want like only few, 3 languages, the most important, or do they want 26 like Empire has? That's also an issue. You will also probably have more problems to get a translator into Lithuanian than you will have with getting a translator into Russian. Setting up the text freezes for localization batches. So if it's going to be a bigger game, you won't be able to do that in one batch, probably. Or I would say it like that, sending out a big batch with 100,000 words is not a good idea. The whole managing process is much bigger, it takes much more time. You will get lots of logs from the translators. You will basically be spammed with all the communication for whole weeks. So small batches are a little bit better, because also then you can test what you already have, if the game is working. So this is much better. So talking with the whole game team, with game design, when can they deliver the first batches? So you can start actually. Preparing documentation and glossaries is also very important. If the translators get only plain text, which tells them click here and a window opens, the translations won't be that good as if you explain that the player needs to click a button which says play, which opens a window with something. So that helps a lot. And of course, finding the right tools, like for example a cat tool which you want to use, finding the right content management system tool, booking resources. So that's everything that needs to be considered in the whole process. Yeah, and that is what I already talked about when the localization steps in. So as soon as possible in the pre-production phase, it's the best. Why? Because some of the languages are more challenging when it comes to coding as well, like for example Arabic. If you have already a final game, a final project, and you just recently decided to localize it into Arabic, you will have a really bad time doing so. It will be almost impossible. Asian languages can be also very special when it comes to some player input, for example, if he needs to type in his or her name. Also the developers need to be aware of some localization issues. Like for example, please do not hard code at all. It's still an issue, of course, because when you looked at how many new people we have, it's clear that not everyone has experience with projects which get localized into 26 languages. So we get also questions like, can I hard code a point at the end of a sentence or not?
Are people aware of that?
We make them. We try really hard to make them aware of that, but those questions pop up every time. So not everyone is actually. Yeah, and we have also we have some in-house languages, or lots of in-house languages, as I told you. But those are also only resources which we need to plan how to use them. I cannot spam my Japanese translator with a batch which has 10,000 words and then tell her, okay, I need that by tomorrow. It's just not possible. So we need to plan our resources as well. When you have more games which are making updates simultaneously, then it's sometimes hard because Big Farm makes a big update. 7,000 words needs to be done in 2 days. But when also Empire has an update on these days, or Empire for Kingdoms, then we have a problem because our translators can do only so much. You showed us 2,500 words a day is what they can do. So the localization scope, I talk mainly about the games, but of course it's not only games. It's glossaries which need to be translated and reviewed sometimes, and new entries are added with every update. There are lots of marketing texts like emails. Of course, for example, browser games, they have huge email marketing. Mobile games, not so much. There's only little. Landing pages, banners, text for app stores, keywords need to be localized as well, translated. Websites or website, the shop, which needs to be translated as well. Terms and conditions, forums, patch notes, for example, and also the trailers, which I wanted to show you. Oh no. Sorry. I don't know.
Do you know what we can do if it just got black and it's...
Have you touched the screen?
Ah, okay.
Oh, it's a touch screen.
I don't know how loud it is. But do you want to say something before it, or just...
It's a trailer for Empire for Kingdoms, for one of our main games.
It's in German.
Ihr könnt die Welt verändern, ruhmreiche Taten vollbringen und zu Legenden werden. Seid ihr bereit? Empire for Kingdoms, jetzt im App Store und auf goodgame.de.
Basically, there was a whole review process when we translated this trailer. First, the text was translated. Then we had to pick the speakers, the actors. So we had like 3 samples, up to 4 samples for every language, and we asked some of our native speakers to review these samples. Then the first audio was made, and it got back to us, and we listened to that. We still found some mistakes, like for example, some speakers said the name of the game wrongly, like not Empire but Emperor or something like that. Sometimes the website, like for example, you can play this on goodgame.com, was surprisingly goodgame.fr. I don't know why, because probably they took just the French version, and yeah. And then we got the mix with the background music as well, and that was another review which we had to do, because for example in my Czech version the background music was so strong that at one point it overtuned the speaker, and his sentence was cut off in half. So that was another one. And so we have a nice trailer now in all languages, which is great. And the next point is Isabell's.
Yes. Now I'm going to talk about the actual workflows that include all of the things you have heard already. So as Martina already said, our workflows are already different among the different game projects. Because the sizes are different, of course. Sometimes we also have small updates in Big Farm, but sometimes we have big ones. The deadlines are difficult. Sometimes if there's an update in Empire and in Big Farm at the same day, it's more difficult to handle than if they just are not at the same day or in different weeks. And then the processes inside of the game development team are really different among projects as well. So again, we have CAD tool and CMS tool we use. That's just the main tools we use for our work. And I would also say Skype is one of the most important tools to talk with the game developers and with the project team. And yes, and as already mentioned, our key to accomplish this task is that not everyone does everything, but we have dedicated project managers for every game project, and also other projects may come up, like if we have a special conversion marketing project or something. So we have 4 phases I want to present. We have the preparation phase, a localization phase, the delivery check, and the test, which is important. Preparation phase. That's what you already heard about. We are responsible for collecting all information that is possible. So we have to check how much text will come, what kind of text will come. We have to inform the agency that there will be something with as many information as possible. So if we have like a scope, a date, and also how urgent it is, or when we need it. And we familiarize ourselves with the product, and especially with the new features that are about to come. So we take a look if there's a new event with a new quest line. So how is it the normal interface? Is it a new interface? Are new characters coming, or is it just like a small addition to a feature that's already there? Those are the things we need to check and we need to know. And we have to communicate those information to the agency. We mainly do that with briefings. Briefings in our case are like documents where we collect everything that we know. We can add screenshots, and if there are already some, or if not, then at least mock-ups of the approximate order of the text boxes and stuff. And also background information. If there's a new character coming to the game, we have to tell them what he speaks like, what he looks like, what he's going to do. We're also extracting new terminology. So when a German text is like done or almost done, we can take a look, check our glossary and see what is not in there yet. So if it's a completely new feature, we will always have new glossary entries that have to be added to the glossary, of course. And when we have collected all the files with the texts and also a glossary file with the new glossary entries, we write comments. So we try to explain everything we know and would be what is not in the briefing yet. So example, if there's a placeholder, like a variable in the text, which can be a number, we try to explain that it's a number and what kind of number it can be. So for example, if it's always just 1,000 or 2,000, like this, they have to know, because in some languages you have to adjust the grammar according to how high the number is actually. Or we try to comment on if there are puns in it that may be not really clear, or like references to like well-known books or films or something like that. We try to comment as much as we can with the time we have, so that the translators have all the information they need, hopefully. So when we prepared all of that, we sent that out to the agency, and we communicate mostly with 1 or 2 project managers from the agency, so not directly with the translators, of course. And during the localization phase, it's mostly their work, so we are just there for answering questions. They will send us so-called translators logs, where they collect from different languages their questions, what they want to know or what they're not sure about, and we'll find solutions. Important example is when we have given a certain text length and they cannot keep to their text length because they would need to write it longer to have an adequate translation. So we try to find solutions if there's enough space or if we have to find a technical solution for that. Things like yes, we then implement the changes. Like I said, we have new glossary files. We don't have, that are almost always there. The in-game texts, that's just the main part, of course. And also the marketing materials, because if there's a really new big event in a web game, our email marketing will probably also send out emails to like all players or active players announcing that new feature and telling them they should enter the game, things like that. So these are the three most important components. We also have to keep an eye on the timely delivery, not only before that we get the text to send them out, but during the localization phase, to remind the agency if they may have started too late or things like that. So normally text will arrive on time, back to us, and we can already start to prepare tests in that phase, which we'll talk about later. Yes, when the text came back from the agency, we're doing a delivery check. Very important. Files come back and we check for completeness and possible issues. That means we're basically checking formatting, like if there are double spaces somewhere, or if the placeholders were not entered correctly or were modified in some way. Or if the numbers are correct, because sometimes, especially if they get fuzzy matches on the translation memory, and there's a string where just the number was changed, it may not always be that every translator has changed the number, so we check that. And we will also communicate changes to the agency, so if we then notice that we will have to shorten the string because it will not fit the way we thought, or that we thought there was an issue, a technical issue with the placeholders, for example, we will communicate that so that they can change it. And once after all the tests got implemented and checked, we will do the testing. Of course, normal testing, the feature tests, themselves are made by a functional QA that has got not much to do with our department itself, just we know when they do test what. And our loc QA is responsible for localization and internationalization tests. That means internationalization tests are pretty much done before every update now, but as Martina said, we're trying to adapt our workflow still, because the whole testing thing is pretty new for us still. Internationalization test is pretty much the technical part. It means testers will not only check their native language, but also other languages. They will check for text that were cut, that will not fit into a text box. They will check if they can enter the correct characters in the text field. So when they're playing in Chinese, they're probably not supposed to also enter Cyrillic characters, so they will check if everything is alright with that. They will also check date formats, all those kind of things, especially for the new features that come in, because you cannot check everything every time. You have to suppose that they did not break anything completely unrelated in the future in the old game. The localization test is a bit different. It also checks the new feature mostly. One tester will always check his own native language, and will basically it's like a better proofreading, of course, because if you only proofread, you can only check linguistic issues, but if you see the text in the game with the context, it's always different, and they can easier filter out if something went wrong, or if the translator misunderstood something, or yes, if the display is not as we thought it would be. So yes, they can see that in localization text. And we as project coordinators, we prepare the information for them as well, because we already gathered it for the agency. So, and as they are sitting with us internal in the company, they have access to all the information they need. They may even go to the game designers themselves and ask them, what does it mean? They can ask us, or they can ask clients if they have a problem with Chinese formatting. Nothing. They can just go to them and say, that's not how it's supposed to be, can we change that? So, and of course they will find different kinds of bugs. I don't know if you can see it. It's in red. Yeah. So we have one thing, this is the button. And see, if we're testing, you will see that we have those things after every string, which are called pipes. And those pipes are, they show you when a string, where the end of the string is. So even if you don't speak that language, you will see, oh, okay, I can see the whole string here. Here, this pipe is missing. So you know the text is not fully displayed because there's something missing. And then, you can log this as a bug, even if you don't speak the language. And same here, I think, pipe is missing. So, but you see that there's enough space at the left, so you could, well, if you go to client, for example, you can, to developers, you can just tell them, would you please move the text field to the left so that everything could be displayed? And mostly that is a solution we find. You do not always have to shorten the text so that we can also find technical solutions.
We do have to shorten a lot in mobile games.
Yeah.
Mobile
that's right. Mobile is more restricted, of course. You cannot display so much. In web games, like here, Empire, it's if you have this button, you probably have to shorten it. But if you have a headline, you can also find a way to make it 2 lines or to widen it or things like that.
Also, these screenshots are from our test servers. And so we have test environments where those pipes are displayed, so the testers know when the string ends. And you have the option to use cheats, as you said, so it's easier for the testers to achieve level 70 if they need it to. Else it wouldn't be possible to test live because there are just so many restrictions in time. I mean, in Empire, if you attack a player, it can take up to 8 hours till the attack actually happens. So,
or building will take 40 hours sometimes.
Yeah,
so
sometimes building.
You can skip that also in game, and with cheats, it will be easier. So just go on forward, gaining levels and so on. Yeah, so do you want to summarize? Or?
Yes, I wrote just some few tips and tricks. Basically for a localization project. In my opinion, it's really important to plan everything. Even if you know that the plan is going to probably change because the development team is very agile. Still, you need to somehow plan it. You need to know the game really well. That's, for me, it's really important. Even as a translator, when I started, I just got this really strange game I never played before, and I was like, I don't like this language. But after a few months, it's not that you get used to the language, but it's more that you see why some things were translated like this, and it starts making sense. And you find other bugs, other translations which are worse, much worse. So to know the project is really important. That's also probably why in-house translators are just so good at it, because they are really playing the games and they are sitting in the company 8 hours a day. So, for example, I translated Shadow Kings when it was released into Czech. And we did also outsource lock QA for the whole project for every language. And for Czech, they found only like 3 typos in the whole game. So, well done.
but the testing took about 4 days, so those were really expensive 3 titles I made. And that brings me to the last point, that testing the localization is so important because of all the possible truncations you could have in the game, and so you actually see your texts in the game, so you see how they work in the game.
Yes, thank you, and please ask questions.
Thank you very much, Isabell, and thank you, Martina. I think that this was very interesting because it's quite a difference to be in a game developer environment than a bit distant from the developing process. At least the way you told localization is done in your company. One thing I heard several times is that, for instance, in your company, the game is developed in German, the original one, and then it is translated into English before the other languages, which then are based on the English version, are localized. Is this because of the availability of translators?
Yeah, it's really difficult to find translators in every language combination for German, and who have additionally also the skills to translate games, because you just have a lot of resources from English, and then you can just pick the best ones. If you have translated from German, you just have to pick the ones that are there, and the quality is probably not as high.
But as we talked about humor and other things, isn't this a certain risk? You lose a lot of linguistic features.
Well, that's why it's so good that the English team is with us in the company. So we can talk to each other, and if they don't know how to write it, they will also recreate it and not just translate it, of course. And they can also ask the game text or so directly if what did they mean with that pun, and they'll think about how to recreate it.
Caroline, you talked about the amount of words that a localizer translator has to translate per day, and the figure you mentioned was 2,500, and even more if it's a translation of a script, if I remember well.
If it's continuous, it can be faster.
Okay, if
it's something like, for instance, dialogues go a bit faster. It's nicer work for the translator because you have it's continuous discussion. For instance, you stay on the same subject and you're into it. It can go faster, and that's why in case of script, it can go faster.
It seemed to me rather huge. So
it can be a lot. Like I think the metrics are actually between 2,000 and 2,500 usually, and it depends. It depends on the subject. It's always different. Some scripts are going to be more difficult. If you have to work on what we were talking before, have a specific language that you have to create, you cannot do 2,000 words per day because you have to think about it constantly. Try to find something, especially if each character is going to have a special thing. But if you are translating a subject, you work on big font, and every week you're going to have this update, and the game, it can be faster.
It's much faster.
In your case, for instance, as you translate into Czech, can you say how much you succeeded in translating per day?
Well, I knew the game very well, and I have played it, so it went really fast. Also, our games are not hard to translate. It's not a hard language to translate.
Try to keep it pretty simple to attract as many players as possible, so from all ages.
It should be also readable for children, for example. So the language isn't hard. So it was probably more than 3,000 words a day.
And you talked as well about CAT tools. Which CAT tools do you use in your company?
A cloud-based cat.
A cloud-based CAT tool, and that's as much as we can say.
We'll just say no. Don't tell it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we cannot tell it.
Okay. Yes, because I remember well. I'm not sure, but I think about 7 years ago, when I attended a game localization roundtable at the Localization World Conference, it was perhaps the first time, or at least the beginning phase of a well-organized game localization scene. Nobody of the representatives in this roundtable used CAT tools at that time, and I really was astonished about the chaotic way they work. And nowadays, if I hear Karin, and so it's really a well made up process. So it looks like something you learn in theory. So at least it's much more. Yes, it has much developed, and it had really entered a new stage in this space.
I think it's something that they talked about a lot, and developers are more aware of localization now. 7 years ago, none of the developers knew about localization or cared about localization. They were creating games, and now developers in general care about other markets and trying to open their game, and they realize that it's not just about just creating a game for here and for now. It can happen in the whole world, and it will happen in the whole world, but you need to think about it a bit more. I think this is a major difference. And as for companies, there is a lot more competition as well. So
yes,
I think it's maybe easier for a company like ours, where the games are like not released once and then never touched again, but the developers know that there will be new content like every week or regularly, and then they know if they do things like not really without thinking about it, or just like we do it like just that it's in there and then never touch it again, that doesn't work. So they know that they will have to change things continuously, and that also includes the localization. So I think they have to think more about that.
Also, we make workshops for example, artists, developers, product managers, game designers, project managers as well, so basically for everyone. Yeah.
At the beginning point or starting phase of localization, or
when they are new in the company,
okay.
I would say.
Just how we work and what we expect them to do.
Or if they need it again, that's also an option.
Refreshing
your knowledge about localization.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the audience? Nobody. So thank you once again for your presentation, and